Good morning, Dr. Brad.
Meet again, sir. What a challenge all this is.
We've been having technical problems. My computer decided to freeze for God knows what reason. But anyway, doesn't happen very often, but does happen.
Did you discover any notable causes?
Oh, I did the most sophisticated thing possible, which was I rebooted.
Yes. Yes. Well, welcome everybody. This is episode 2057. Hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell right there. Then leave your messages.
So, before we were so rudely interrupted by a technology problem, you were proposing an insight that would add clarity to our diamond of deceit.
So the diamond, the diamond, the lower half of the diamond, which I'm calling the beta triangle, descending triangle of the diamond. I propose to divide it in segments downward, starting with overloading and indulgence, then going to oppression and maladaption, to dissolution and devolution and degeneration. And on the right-hand side, where the masculine side is, there's social control, organized crime, social construction, political control, and empire. And on the left-hand side, there's the GSSRM descending toward the apex of the triangle. And those roughly correspond to the behaviors, or the behaviors are in the description, which is in the middle, descending. So overloading and indulgence, oppression, maladaption, and then dissolution, devolution, and degeneration.
Okay, so let's test it by adversarial competition between the concepts. So let's try it. So you want me to share my screen so you can see it?
Yes. Let's see what happens.
Well, I've got to find it here somewhere. Where the hell are you? There you are. Google Chrome.
There we go.
So that's what we're looking at, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the first one I want to test is the center, because I wasn't completely following. So I have ordinary, inflationary, overloading, evading, undermining, harming. So what I want to hear is what you were proposing there.
Because I look at overloading is like the flips. There's a function there which is overloading and indulgence.
So what's indulgence?
Is I'm going to pander to the biases of this group to cause them to be baited into the hazard of they'll be baited into the hazard of doing my bidding because it's behaviorally economical for them to do so, and they're going to gain advantage.
Okay, I got that. Let's go to the next one.
Okay, oppression and maladaptation. That's evasion, right?
All right, but I'm looking for where does what you're saying go? Is it here? Read it to me again. What is it?
It's oppression and maladaptation. That's a sequence. Like if you go back up to what we just typed there, the overloading and indulgence, it's the next in the sequence. Because what happens is you are overloading some people and you're indulging some people, which is overloading them in a tempting way, right? And then the next the sequence of outcomes is oppression and maladaptation, which is more systematically imposed. Which is like, it's like an outcome.
Wait, try that. You keep going. I'm not getting it.
So overloading and indulgence is momentary.
Yep.
Oppression and maladaptation is systemic. Sequelae.
Okay. I'm gonna put a couple of rows in here. Give it to me again.
Oppression and maladaptation. So maladaptation is the group that has been indulged is now adapted to the indulged state and not indulged to the real state. They're adapted to the socially constructed state. And the oppressed are being kept from expressing their potential. They're being parasitized.
Just trying to for conflating two dimensions here, which I think why I'm having trouble. So, okay, give me the next one.
The last one is dissolution, devolution, and degeneration, which is what happens when maladaptation goes on for generations. Oppression and maladaptation goes on for generations.
These are two different dimensions. So hold on, I've almost
Processing it.
I've almost got it. Same thing.
Yeah.
No, this is a phase. These are phases, right?
Phases.
Well, I'm not done. I just gotta do my thing.
Well, I know.
Row.
I like to see them as like time horizons.
Well, see, these are the way I have this organized.
Mm-hmm.
These are the grammar. So in other words, this is language. And so this is a list of universal to deflationary to inflationary, or should be deflationary, universal, or common, and then it should be ordinary, and then it should be inflationary. So these grammars are just what's being done.
Yes.
That's all it's saying. What's being done. So the question is, are these tags on these things, or is this a different hierarchy? And I said, well, the hierarchies, what I've got here is the correct hierarchy for the dimensions that follow the deflationary, ordinary, inflationary, evading, and then right. So that's going to the positive suggestion to evading, which is escaping, which is to attacking. So it goes from submissive to from neutral negotiative to persuasive to deceptive to deception by denial and evasion to flipping it around to harming you. And so it's from, the spectrum is consistent from peace to war.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And I think these things are phases. So, for example, if we went down to, interpersonal, what is that? In other words, maybe it is true, maybe it is right. So overloading indulgence, this can be individual and political. And it can be, that can be, okay. I think what it means is there's possible escalation within each technique. Do you hear what I'm saying or no?
I think so.
Is that I'm not really sure. I think these are
The escalation in scale.
is within a technique,
Yes.
right? So I think you can say it's escalating within a technique. And I think these are escalating phases. But the order of the technique is correct, but it is still, it's an escalating technique, but the other dimension we're adding is escalating scale.
Yes.
So we have two different scales here.
Okay.
I would go along, I'll go along with that. I would just say that now we have to produce, let's just take harm, for example. What's overloading and indulgence, right? You're not doing any of that here, right? Are you doing oppression and maladaption? You're certainly
That's oppression.
Yeah, you're certainly doing it here, right? And what was the next one?
That's devolution, dissolution, devolution. That's where we are at this, beyond that.
Right, and so this
Low
is
mirror.
dissolution.
Yeah.
And let's test it on, well, what is this one?
That's baiting into hazard is the it's the that one is the first one. It's overloading and indulgence. We're taking advantage of the behavioral economics.
Well, I mean, these are actions.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Is that evasion is like act is informational as well.
Yeah. All right. These are all going to be.
Yeah.
Right. So, there's no, we'd have to, in order to incorporate this first one, we have to incorporate actions. There's action. That might be a triangle. That's a triangle.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a hierarchy. So let's go by and test it. Is this an action? No. This is, where does evasion go in this hierarchy of yours? I think it goes here.
It's indulgence.
Yeah, evasion. So that would be, then you have to have, yeah. So this is reward.
Yeah. I see baiting and seducing as overloading.
Well, the difference between baiting, seducing, and overloading is that it's internal to the individual mind, right? But baiting and seducing are the equivalent of this here. Maybe no. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. You say it's
Because
okay.
it's like it's what you're doing is baiting and seducing is suggesting opportunity that is not going to be realized.
Right.
So it's like you're creating an internal you're causing a auto association within the target that is erroneous to cause misbehavior.
So this is, yeah, I'm just trying to say, how do I test this series, this dimension against this dimension? And so I'm trying to say, okay, well, let's try this one because this is easier.
Mhm.
What did I just do? Information, actions, it should be, it should be something like persuasion. It should be something like bias, persuasion, coercion, action. And I think that's what I'm seeing here, is we're missing, when I look at this as coercion.
Hmm.
It's seductive coercion, psychological. So that's right. This would be undermining. Yeah, I think that's the same. So why aren't these, what's different about? So this would be, I'm just going to try. So let's go with, this is undermining the individual. Undermining the informational commons, undermining organizations.
Hmm. Hmm.
This would be normative.
Hmm.
what's this? Do these three scale? Yes,
They appear to be at the same scale.
they're the same scale, but do they scale? They scale to propaganda?
That will be, you scale them like social construction, I think. So when you when you undermine the social capital, the normative capital, they're scaled because we normalize that behavior set in the population. So it scales by normative destruction. It's evolutionary in function because it's like it's anti
So that's the point I'm saying is that, but all three of these, they're just,
individual misbehavior.
this is the, yeah, I mean, they're just, well, they work though at all scales, right?
It's like, can you the when it's kind of like this, if you normalize the disapproval, like you normalize the disapproval of white males in the social environment, and it's like that's scaling it, right?
Yeah,
So it's scaled by normative changes, all of them. And it's like the thing that I noted when I was working on this was that the scaling is done by males. The feminine, or masculine, the masculine scales it, and the feminine enacts it. They're just like acidic, you know.
excellent.
Because it's a systematization of it.
It's the same thing though, so here's the, so, all of these things scale. Right, these things scale.
Right.
These things scale. What doesn't scale? Yes, truth.
Truth doesn't scale.
Can you, it's very hard to scale individual harms.
When you normalize it, it becomes it operates at scale though, right? which is victimization of all the victims, until the trust is eroded from the situation.
I think this is the problem right here. Uh, This is the wrong word.
Hmm.
There's something very profound here, I feel, and I can see it in there somewhere.
It's
Can't,
all right.
can't quite get it. All right, so
Two.
the problem is, what I learned from doing that was disambiguate that.
Yeah, there's something to it. There's the scale issue, which is an individual harming another individual or seeking to gain advantage, is at a different scale than when it's a social function which is occurring, which is a group is working against another group based on some group identity. which would be a form of social construction, which would be war, when it requires coordinated action.
Information cooperation material,
Ah,
right?
physicality, right?
Yeah. All right, so now I'm what do I do with this now? Is this part of this? Um,
Yeah, I see it as being related to the scale of it, the scale of operation, the duration of action.
yeah, so the thing is though, can we illustrate this on this graph?
I don't know. That seems difficult.
Well, this worked, right?
Yeah,
Russian adaption. Yes, parasitism.
Mhm.
See, why does the spacing do that? I have no idea. I want y'all to look the same. I'll have to go in there and mess with it. I'm gonna clean it up. So if we put. This is parasitism. God damn it.
Yeah. Social construction is not undermining. Social construction is overwhelming. Information overloading.
Where?
Social information right above where your cursor is. Yeah. It's social construction is not undermining. It's overwhelming.
Yes, it's overwhelming.
The undermining has been successful, and they are overloading the social system with their nonsense. I came to this conclusion yesterday. I was thinking about it. We've been overwhelmed by the feminine, which is what has occurred in Western civilization. It's the Babylonian state overwhelmed us with feminine energies. The betas are overwhelming us, or swamping us out.
Well, again, when lies are cheap, right, and seduction and a false promise is cheap, truth is expensive, and forced to prohibit their reciprocity and parasitism is expensive. So, you have the ratio problem of if you let it, if you are tolerant, you give something a foothold to expand from. The only solution to baiting the hazard is zero tolerance.
Yes.
The problem is, before our work here, there's no way to know what we should be tolerant of and not. The hard problem, which we still face, is that if a religion or mythos is based on those false promises, using seduction and to bait you into the hazard of believing a false promise, and teaching you how to lie by sophistry to defend them, then the problem is that it becomes very difficult to outlaw lying because your religion produces it. So the only solution I know of is to create a new religion that isn't false. Basically, we're doing that. We just don't do it by intent. If we'd have gone, instead, the church had said, hey, turns out we're right.
Yeah.
It turns out that we wanted to synthesize this, and our ancestors did the best they could with the knowledge, technology, and understanding available at the time. And it turns out that you want to have Aryan heroism, European rule of law, and Christian law. And that turns out that, you know, Aquinas is right about fucking everything, which really pisses me off. And that it's really obvious how Locke, Smith, and Hume ended up as sons of Aquinas. And that the problem is that we were too tolerant. I just can't quite, I mean, I see these Enlightenment guys as good Christian souls, right? They take on the aristocracy's burden for the peasantry. They take on the church's burden for the peasant. Okay, fine. They take on white man's burden as an extension of the aristocracy and the church nobility. They take on white man's burden of this. The Anglosphere takes it on as human rights and secular humanism. These are all attempts to take responsibility for the adultification of mankind.
Right.
It turns out they were largely right. They didn't do it so well all the time, but I mean, we're human. We don't do anything very well. But I mean, if the church had just said, fuck, we were right, they would have had it. So we're still in this position of one of the greatest defenses we've had against the left has been our Christians. I mean, our Protestant fundamentalist Christians. Yet we can't transition from. It gets very hard. It'd be easier to transition Catholics than it would be fundamentalists. Because Catholicism is already philosophical rather than fundamental.
Okay.
It teaches dogma as the bridge between the ancient literature and reason. And so it would be easy for the Catholic Church to claim victory. It's almost impossible for the Protestant Church to claim victory, fundamentalist Protestant Church to claim victory. But the church, by saying it's just natural law, could have claimed victory.
It's never too late.
All right, so I'm afraid I'm going to kill the audience. Maybe.
You don't want to do that.
Well, my intuition says I can make this, I can fit this in here. In other words, that escalation can provide additional value that isn't in. I mean, we could put it aside and say, just like epistemology, this is the escalation path. And then we could just leave this as techniques. Or we could take the techniques and add the escalation path as tags to the individual techniques.
Right.
My initial reaction was, well, they're going to end up being the same thing, but it's not. So maybe we should go through the exercise of trying to tag everything. And I actually like this right here too. What capital is being
assaulted, yeah.
All right. Would you mind if I hit pause and I got a fresh cup of coffee?
That'll be fine.
If I can find it. Pause. Can you state that again?
So this section here is this fictionalisms, occult, sophistry, magic, and numerology, mathiness. They are scale independent. It's up there. These are scale independent, which is to say they can exist as subcults competing with each other for viability within the host, which is to be lied to, for dominance, and then increase in scale as they are successful.
Yeah, so what's not scale independent here?
This is scale dependent, this cooperative function of undermining description there, and you call conspiracy, cooperation. That is scale dependent.
These are scale dependent, right?
Yes.
But these are scale independent.
Yes. So when you, so there's a, that's interesting. So that this part here, the grammars, the information is scale independent, but the systematic application of those is dependent on scale. Fresh coffee is so good.
Coffee is proof God loves us.
Yeah. There you, I like that. See, now that is,
Now it makes sense.
information is not operationally dependent.
Yeah. Now that makes sense.
Because the triangle is utilizes informational technique at operational dependent scales.
Are these scale into, yeah, these things scale, right? That's the reason we use them.
But at the they only become independent when they're working with associative functions, right?
Mm-hmm. You would think the universal grammar would be scale independent.
Sounds right.
I'm just gonna be consistent here. Consistency is the humbug of mediocre minds.
That's it.
But I'm gonna be a mediocre mind for a minute.
For variety, right?
Well, just to prevent people from not getting. What does this mean? You wonder, are ordinary grammar scale dependent? I don't know. That's a great question.
They could be ambiguous momentarily.
Ordinary common is context dependent. So that would be. Might be ability dependent. In other words, context dependent.
Who you're talking to.
Huh?
Who you're talking to.
Talking to myself. I
No,
don't
no, it's like it depends who
Yeah.
you're talking to.
Sorry, you fucked me up there.
Sorry, brother.
Um. Okay, now that's right. Okay, so. I think we just cover them like this. God damn it.
That is interesting.
Some
Programmers.
Yeah, well, it's that whole thing of I'm a fan of most things about the web, but I'm not a fan of the hacks we have to go through to deal with the to make a browser which was invented for the display of static information into an editor which is designed for the process of producing information. So I'm really crazy. My big bugaboo is this fucking JavaScript nonsense. What a nightmare. It just means we have to employ 1,000 programmers more than we ought to in almost everything because there's no debugger to do all that work for you.
Oh,
So you end up writing all this crap and all these tests, which are testing for failures of the model rather than failures in your logic.
mm.
And so my view is we're adding quality developers to our talent pool. But my view is that number of talented developers remains relatively constant, while the number of people producing what is essentially shit code at high cost is expanding logarithmically. And there's no reason it's not, these things aren't built into the browser other than this is a great example of the standardization committee becomes the equivalent of a bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Whereas, what you want, of course, is you want the ability to add excellences to the product is independent of what the bureaucracy seeks. And it's just very frustrating. And so you have this natural conflict. Like in some things, like Torvalds on Linux, he's like extremely protective about a couple of things that are very important at maintaining the stability of the system, which is to not let, I don't know how to describe this to non-programmers, It's not let you get access to things that will affect other things. And there are so many people who propose hacks and other stuff, but I mean, no. And he's pretty diligent about it, but that's a limited number of prohibitions, right? That's not saying, well, that'll be hard for these businesses to catch up who have already invested all this money in this code. Just fucking innovator's dilemma crap.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just, I had a lot of hope for, I used the first technology before React became popular. And the thing is that the React, the reactive React, all those things, I can't remember the new one that's been out for a few years now. All this series of things, they're compensating for the fact that the browser is dumb about how it displays information. It basically is there's a database, right, that you can't see, and then it takes the database and renders a screen from the database. But like you can like move one thing and it'll re-render the whole goddamn thing, which is costly. Whereas there's no need to re-render the whole thing. There's only your need to re-render this little bit of the thing. So you have this, and there's all sorts of other crap that happens. You wouldn't believe it. And then so we keep adding hacks to this basic problem. And people think they're technology innovations. It's like, we thought of this shit like 50 years ago. It's like the AI guys are so impressed. I'm like, I don't know. There's nothing new since I was working on AI in the 80s. It's argued there's nothing new since the 50s. All that's happened is that computers have gotten so much cheaper and faster that you can do things.
You can realize the dream
that you couldn't do before, but it's not like we're smarter. It's just we can do more cheaper than the past. It's why I got out of AI in the 80s. I'm like, this is going nowhere until we fix computers. Well, it turns out that it was graphics cards that
funny, isn't it?
that solved the problem of, now we've got AI chips on Apple's doing it right on the freaking main processor board. So, or AI segments on the main processor. And so you can now have these specialized units to do things, because the general operations of your computer, the display of graphics, and the use of what we call AI or Bayesian accounting, those are three different things. It just turns out it's a fairly obvious escalation from one to the other. But the real problem is computers are built backwards. Anyway, so I took us away. I didn't mean, sorry. I was all right. So, there's the next thing we have is capital affected. Right. So I didn't mean to do this, but it turns out to be interesting. And do we need to say what capital is affected in each way? I don't think
there
so.
you go. Yeah,
Well, go ahead, say.
That's it, because it's all about scale.
Yeah.
Because it's like, so when you're organizing the beta state, which is antithetical to the alpha state above, which is reciprocal in nature, we're organizing a criminal enterprise, and it at different scales it goes after different forms of capital.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is necessary to describe it because it is the scale at which it's operating.
Okay, the capital itself
Is the scale. scale of the systems at work, right? It's like you have this group of the beta people are interestingly value, they're operating an ethical vacuum, and they're highly creative, industriously seeking opportunities to be unethical, to take other people's stuff without their knowledge by deceptive means. So there's like a I drew this triangle. This triangle. At the base, the beta state is very wide because it's like there's imaginary places that don't exist. They don't get socially organized because they fail. They're cults that didn't work. As they tried to organize into the empire, the actualized beta state, which crystallizes out as the one that succeeds in the competitive environment of all the lies. So the best lies win and the bad lies die. As what do we call marginalized cults. Which is what they're trying to do to the truth. They're trying to marginalize the truth.
They're trying to create an emotional consistency rather than in other words, internally emotionally consistent versus internally to externally logically correspondently consistent.
That's interesting.
It's just lying. What the problem is that, you know, men get stuck because they develop a paradigm, and the male paradigm is broad. It goes from libertarian to authoritarian, right?
Right.
It's this whole spectrum. And the female paradigm is narrow. Because so we preserve conflict between conceptual tribes. And this forms this competition is a system of calculation. Right? And we forget that you want that difference because in one circumstance, a particular mode of thought is valuable. But if circumstances change, another mode of thought is valuable. So when you're small, authoritarian, small and backward, authoritarian is optimum. When you're advanced and secure and large and powerful, then a libertarian is, well, classical liberal is what I mean.
Yeah.
Is advantageous. So I mean, it just depends on it's an adaptive range, but there's no adaptive range to the left. They're just parasitic, the female mind. They're generating demand that be fulfilled by the male spectrum. So it's way easier for them to get together, and it's way easier for them to get involved in magical thinking because all they're trying to do is generate demand that the males have to supply in order to maintain the coherence and stability necessary to control their reproductive persistence. It's fucking obvious, right? But the problem is we keep wanting these cognitively female and the betas to think like adults, like us. Now the problem is we then get fucked up because we think that our men across the spectrum aren't thinking like adults. Well, they are thinking like adults across the opportunity spectrum, right? From threat to safety, from poverty to wealth. So our guys are on that thing. So we tend to think this is the mistake I make. I of course, I overestimate the fact that for me, I'll just move up and down this thing cognitively flexibly because I'm pretty much at the extreme of abstract thought. But these other guys, they can't do that. They're not at the extreme of abstract thought. They've become
They're specialized.
they're specialized. You know, guy's a mechanic, one guy's a doctor, but we don't think of authoritarianism, classical authoritarianism, classical liberalism, and near anarchic libertarianism as crafts or specialties, and they actually are. So the thing is, you can't bring those specialists together until some agreed upon limit is reached, right? Whereas these left, they stay together in the seizure of parasitic opportunities endlessly. So they're like locusts consuming the whatever comes into play, and we're defending our ability to control reproduction, in other words, maintain reproductive persistence, by keeping open the opportunity, the places by which discover the capture of resources that these idiots can consume. It's just, it's just, and we think that the left thinks. You don't.
I think that decreasingly so.
And because they tend to be verbal, they're storytellers. It's they can be very persuasive, like mothers are persuasive, but it's almost all baiting into hazard. I mean, the reason we need truth, the reason we need what we're doing, right, is because the tendency of humans is to think somewhere between the female magical thinking and the male, in other words, the female magical thinking, which is reality independent, and the male reality dependence within a narrow window, right? And so you have this fractionalized thing, consistently searching across the space-time spectrum for how to organize people to pursue an opportunity that they've discovered because they think in this particular manner. Meanwhile, the other side is just like, fuck, we don't care about the consistency necessary to identify that opportunity and exploit it. We only care about maintaining a relationship between the productive and unproductive so the unproductive can consume. And it's just, I mean, people say you can't, I mean, I could write a robot that did that, right? I mean, it's just it's just robots. The thing is, we have so much informational overload.
Okay.
And so little ability to process it that people think they're smart. And they're just fucking bots. And most of the bots don't think. And of the bots that think, they think about a narrow window. There's just a few of us out on the fringe who can actually look at the thing from top down and say, I see what the fuck's going on here. And there is no optimum except adaptability. and each faction on the right is trying to make adaptability on its terms, and the left is trying to make adaptability on its terms. But the right does it by a search for responsibility, and the left does it by a search for irresponsibility or hyperconsumption. Just fucking animals, man. It's just so overwhelmingly frustrating that you begin to see why the authoritarians. I mean, I can't understand the totalitarians because that's just stupid, right? To think you can control. I mean, that's
control everybody's everything, right?
That's just you got to be. But I do understand the totalitarian, the authoritarians, which is like, okay, that's not happening. That's not happening. That's not happening. So that's the difference I see is authoritarian says, that ain't happening here. and a totalitarian says, this is what's happening here. Just frustrates the hell out of me. So anyway, I continue to digress.
Yep. So that it's like this is what I pick up a vibration on the people that are correspondent people that is increasingly of the opinion that it doesn't matter what noise comes from the left, they just make noise. And so they're not to be negotiated with. They're just going to make noise, and they're just going to delay or distract, or they're not making any negotiation point that is worth engaging with. And it seems to be increasingly the people on that correspondent team on the right are becoming aware of that more.
Well, I mean, I don't want to quote a comedian, but it's a great example of Bill Barr saying, well, we went from not listening to a thing women said to treat it to like women need to be believed. Like, how the fuck did that happen? So my attitude is that, you listen to women for demand, market demand, but you don't listen to anything about their solutions because they can't systematize it all. And they seek for consistency of feeling, which is stagnation. We look for consistency of correspondence, which is opportunity generation. And so what I think is happening, and you're seeing this happen in the political sphere, and you're certainly seeing it in the dating sphere, is that we're going back to women, nothing women say matters. And that's going back to the left is nothing the left says matters. Which is how the aristocracy said, unless it's a problem, it's nothing the church says matters. So, I mean, it's just the same thing is that, or you're getting to where Islam is, which is they're women, you keep them pregnant in the kitchen. And I mean, I'm not into that, right? I mean, I just want us to all get along like the reciprocity. I like having pretty women out on the streets and showing off how great our civilization is by their freedom to be ridiculous. But I don't want them to have freedom to be ridiculous in society and politics. I don't mean in commons or in the public. That's different from society. You don't want women to have political influence. They just don't appear to be able to do it. And I fucking hate saying that. I absolutely hate saying it. It goes against every instinct I have. And I'm from a long tradition of make women equal. And I'm just like, well, yeah. As individuals, not as force, because politics is just war. And women are suck at
That's right. So Clausewitz had it backwards, which is war is politics by other means. It's politics is war by other means.
Correct. And it's like, you can't accuse me of hating women. I fucking love women.
I won't accuse you of that, Kurt.
I know. I mean, I get it. I'm like, it's not like that. It's just like, well, it's
So recognition of scale dependent functionality.
Yeah, and I'm completely upfront about, hey, I know what I suck at, right? I mean, if you want me to read a room, if it's other than guys, predators like me,
Right.
I can't read the room. I'll find the other predators and we'll be fine together, right? But the rest of you nice people, you don't really belong in this meeting. Right? And so you sort of get to that, and then you're like, well, women, they tend to dumb down fucking everything, right? Except when it's about relationships. And so when I have a sales meeting, I want the women there. When I have a project management meeting, which basically means a delivery, I mean, because many companies think in departments, but consultancies think in terms of deliverables. Right? So we're much more dynamic because that's it. So when it comes to the staff, I'd rather listen to and this is true, I'd rather listen to the admin chicks than I would my HR department. Why? Because the girl gossip is the best intelligence organization in the business. And so you may keep a good relationship with your admin chicks. Your admin chicks know that they have access to the top, makes them feel important, makes them invest in the overall good of the company. And then they like, well, I don't want this person to get in trouble, whatever. Okay, that won't happen. So you just women are fucking wonderful, but they just the need to worry about how someone feels about change is a negative indicator of what you should be doing. Makes me crazy. Or, well, you should think about our feelings. No, I should think about my outcomes.
Yeah.
And I love the favorite, but these women are in charge of these wealthy companies. No, these wealthy companies put women in charges for virtue signaling. Because if you have a wealthy company with a woman in charge, you become almost immune to criticism. It's the same reason you put a woman in charge of a failing company, is because it makes it much more immune to criticism. But what it means when a woman's in charge is that either the men are virtue signaling, or the board, or they're trying to provide cover for a decline. And are there any exceptions? Well, there's exceptions. There's exceptions to every general rule. That's why we call it a general rule. I watched Peterson argue with these feminists, because there's a couple of people that collect them and say, hey, Kurt, look at this one. And I'm like, he's just so much nicer than I would be. I would just nail it right on the head. And what he does is he disproves their arguments. He doesn't falsify their incentives. He doesn't go after their incentives. He doesn't call them criminals. He just calls them wrong.
That's interesting.
Yes, and I call them. So he's still under the Victorian model, which is
classic liberalism.
It's insufficient to defend against the criminality of the left. You have to go from error to fraud, to theft. You have to go to criminality.
Because of the incentive structure.
Because that's what we do. So we say, the only way you could get to that logic is by criminal behavior. And then I would always throw out, I don't know, there's no we. There's you and me. And I want to know why I don't kill you and take your stuff. I want to know why me and mine don't kill you and yours and take your stuff. Right? And I don't know why me and mine don't kill your men, take your stuff, and enslave your women and children. Why not? And then they go off on some emotional nonsense. You haven't explained to me why not. There is a reason we don't do that. And it's not because we're good natured. It's because it's just better this way. But what are you doing? You're saying we should you should get away with what we don't do. And, you just keep going through this and you attack them as criminals, hiding under the cover of care. And there's no evidence. You say, well, operationalize your claim. How would you bring that about? Well, wouldn't it be good if that see, now you're trying to obscure your theft by proposing a storytelling as a lie. So he doesn't go after them, which is probably why he still gets invited on. But if I got invited on to those people, the third person I did it to, because it's what happens to me today, right? It's because I don't say, I don't say a lie is what you intend. A lie is the
outcome.
The outcome of the information you transmit. So you can commit a lie of intent, which is a crime, or you can commit a lie of a failure of due diligence, but it's a tort.
right,
doesn't matter if the outcome is the same, it doesn't matter what you intend. So your question is, you need to perform due diligence both against intent and externality, not unintentional consequences of your actions. So otherwise, it means if I run your kid over on the way to work some morning, I'm not responsible because it was unforeseeable, unforeseeable, or that I'm cooking a barbecue outside and the spark lights your house on fire.
oops,
I'm not liable because wasn't intentional. But if you start telling lies, then it's, I mean, it's really easy for him to go because he just pulls up the usual stats on. That's not the truth about income disparity,
right,
not a truth about equality in jobs, which you're just asking for us to steal. You're looking for privilege, not equality. So he does a great job of it, but he doesn't
finish the job.
finish the job. All right, so I know what to do here with this capital thing, and I don't want to drag the audience through it, and I can just happily sit here all afternoon and do what I did here, right?
Excellent.
What I'd like to do now, and we've already separated these phases, so I can write these two things up. I can do a triangle for this and an escalation for that. I want to do the triangle because I want to show how these things can be admixed. And then I want to do this escalation. That'll work. And so we can specifically talk about it without overburdening the diagram too much. And I think we've really got it there with just, it's dependent on who you're talking to. It's scale independent, dependent on who you're talking to. And what was the other one? Is scale independent, scale dependent.
Yep.
Right? So we've got that series worked in there. We can work in this capital. I can simply do that. I don't think that's something I want to drag the audience through. And I want to make good use of our time and I want to go over to this other section and see if we can do with the other topics what we've done with these two additional measures that we've added to. Is that all right?
Right.
You ready for a context change?
Mm-hmm.
I'm already losing my goddamn voice. So have we got baiting? Have we addressed baiting into hazard on the diagram?
Yes.
I don't have to disambiguate it down into these levels, right? I mean, that's for the text. The diagram just has to outline, right? It doesn't have to have everything.
Right.
Do we have people and critique on there?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. So they're here, right?
Yeah.
Except I think it's shifted.
A little bit.
Am I boring you, boss, or is this okay?
No, you're good. I
feel really bad right now because I'm having to do a lot of think work. So
it's all right.
it's okay.
That one's a weird one because it's like it has to go in between, and it seems like it should be in a. Because it's like a systematized form of lying, no?
Right. Come on. There we go.
Boy, oh boy. That took a little bit of processing power.
So we have pill pull. There really is no, there's no equivalent to critique. It's more like this. And I think this is, that's it. Fuck, that was so obvious. That's right. That's what it is. Holy damn.
What's that?
Well, remember we have intuition, emotion,
Yeah,
uh, verbal, verbal, and we have physical, right? So,
right.
so that's sophistry, right? That's obvious, right? And this is magic to pseudoscience,
Yeah,
and this is a cult. Cult is not. There's something below a cult. Spirits to so emotion, imagination. It's emotion. So so what's happened is these are all appealing to emotions, right?
right.
So these are the human faculties. The three. So this is emotional. Verbal. And physical. You know, I've been wanting to do that for a long time. Okay, this is kind of interesting. So numerology, this is like they have a whole bunch of crazy shit in here.
That is very interesting. Yeah,
Chris, I don't know, I could put this whole set of them in here. But it's really their thing is goalposts. Moving goalposts. That's how they screw up everything. Technically, it's part of sophistry, but so is numerology.
Hmm.
And so this is loading. What do you call it? Overloading.
Hmm.
Right? And so
Hmm.
this one thing, that's enough for me.
Huh.
That's my win of the day. What did you just do?
Hmm.
I like that word. You get a prize for that word.
There you go.
I like that word. That is a good word, Brad.
It covers it.
Missing one thing. We're missing something that doesn't. Oh, that's fucking brilliant. See, it's like the value you get out of this game is whenever you identify something,
Yeah.
find the mirror image of it, is that you don't realize uh what's going on. I mean, how do I say this? The depth of what's going on is obscured. So this is truth. This is something like truth, loyalty. And this is
Caring and devotion, man.
yeah, I'm just trying to get there. It's not heroism. Heroism, truth, loyalty, heroism, heroism. And this is it's called keeping undue praise. Praise, devotion. It's this order. It's called technically lionizing.
Yeah.
And what is the uh, consensus? See, these are different. These are mirror images of each other. Truth is a demonstration of loyalty and it makes you heroic. And they do consensus, devotion, heaping undue praise. So satisfaction. Okay. So measurements. And this is rewards. Okay. Oh man, being human sucks. Now, how do we move from sophistry to false promise? Because I think it's the same thing here. It's pilpul
Yeah.
to this. I think this whole spectrum is here. Faith healing to, I don't know what the hell it is. I don't know. I'll figure that one out. It's coming. It's sitting in there. No, that's fine. And this one. I don't know where this goes. There's something here. I don't know where this is. Table. Oh, row insert after. And there's that one. There's something. No, it's the other way around.
Yes,
It's the other way around.
'cause that's emotional, intuitional overloading.
Yeah. You know, you're good at this. You get paid for this shit someday.
Oh boy.
Trying to be funny and it's not working. So repeat what you said again there.
It's intuitional overloading. That next category is this continuation of the same one.
Is there any equivalent? It's got to be in a May. There's got to be some.
That's like the status thing, yeah. But it's like this, it's intimidation, you know?
Intimidation.
Yeah. And a status.
Does that go down? Do we need to move these down here?
No, just leave them there for the minute.
There.
The status signaling is part of it too. It's all status signaling. It's male status signals.
Repeat. I didn't catch that whole thing.
Male status signaling.
Yeah.
Masculine.
Jesus, this is good. Thing is, this is physical. That's what I don't like. Either it needs to go first or last.
Oh,
I think it needs to go first. What do you think? It's pre-verbal,
it's pre-verbal.
right?
That works.
I know, Brad. We did good work on just this.
Looks good.
Yeah. Jesus, Brad, this was fucking awesome. It's probably more important to me because I've been thinking about it for a long time.
Right. No, it's good to organize it. Clarifies it nicely.
Okay, we'll just do that to save myself any tears later.
Right.
Is it necessary to put all these forms of denial in there?
And that depends on how you wish to, how this is all to be presented. I don't think, are you going to have this in the narrative section? Or are you going to have it only in the tabular section?
Say this.
Book. You're going to present the information exclusively in the table or with a narrative in addition?
Oh, with a narrative.
So I think you put it in the narrative. And then you can leave it so that you just have the major heading denial in the table. And then you can have the details in the narrative.
Let's test it. Okay. Let's try it out. I don't know. We broke those down. Do you want to break GSSRM down?
We could do it.
I think we ought to do it.
All right. Now I'm running into a time constraint here in 20 minutes.
All right.
For your information.
But Brad, I'm jealous of your time.
I know. Sorry,
You have
Chris.
so many people that want your time and attention. I'm just trying to start something and you're not letting me.
I know, right?
Where would you put GSSRM here?
Okay. That's under undermining.
Is there a spot? This is conspiracy. We affect relations. But aren't we talking about something between
So
evasion and conspiracy? We're talking about undermining. It's basically what we call gaslighting, right? Isn't there another thing here?
there is, it's pre-conspiracy, but it's personal. Evasion is interesting because it's not conspiracy.
Right.
It's personal. Gaslighting is personal as well.
Yeah,
I guess it can be scaled too.
Yeah, I think we just should put that. That's where this goes, is between these two.
Okay.
I want you to argue with me. I don't hear you arguing with me.
I don't have a good argument because it is an intermediary state.
Don't know why this is being difficult.
Huh.
Okay, table row after table row after table row after. Where are you? Okay, so we have ad hominem. Right?
Yeah.
And this is scale dependent. Is it? I don't know. I don't think so.
No, it's a technique.
Yeah. All right. And so we have, oh my God, so many.
Right?
Where's GSRM? Come on.
It's a lot of lying in there.
Yeah, that's the draft outline. Where Where is? I have it, right? I promise. I have it here somewhere. Major update to GSRM. I'm gonna bring that
There
over.
you go.
And I think these are the sections.
Hmm. So they're like,
And there's a lot. GSRM is under my, it's huge, right? I mean,
there's a lot of potential there.
there's a lot here.
So it's like that, but I see that you have these organized by escalations. So I think in the table you organize them by escalations.
So, right. Technically, these are evasion, right? It's not evading.
Which is
That's
really,
lying. That's mismeasurement, right?
yes. It's interesting because it's like agreement versus social proof versus correspondence with reality.
Mm-hmm. So just while we're at it, let's see if we can put that somewhere. Does that go in here somewhere? Is it information? Is it evasion?
Yes.
Oh, here it is.
That
We got it right there.
it's so conflation, right? Social proof.
All right, so we've got that in there. All right, so we have to do disapproving, denying, and silence. All right, so where is that one? Denial. I got it. Oh, that's my notes.
Yeah.
So I'll go back. Weighted denying. Okay, so that's from the false equivalency, which is this one, right?
Yes.
And then that's that one. What am I doing? This goes over here, right?
Yeah.
This goes here, right?
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if that's conflation or substitution.
Yes. Substitution is better.
Tell me when. I'm not gonna. I'm worried about time here. I got 10 minutes. See how many of these we can get through.
Right.
Um, Shame moralized outraging. This shit is. It's amazing how our popularization of these concepts has spread across the internet.
What does that mean?
You can see people using.
Oh, so they're picking it up. So that means the science is gaining traction. Right?
Yep, I saw somebody the other day lay it out on a YouTube comment on somewhere else. I don't, because the aliases on YouTube are different. I don't know
Right.
who it was, but it was somebody I don't know. And I was like, wow, that was good.
So these are increasingly active,
Yep.
which is increasing in scale of operation.
Yep. I didn't, I didn't even finish it because I remember doing this. Like I was getting so angry. I can't stop working on it. Oh shit.
Yeah, buddy.
Oh no, come on.
It's interesting that it's increasing scales. It's like which is increasing, these are not scale dependent. These are scale dependent. These are scale dependent.
That's what I'm asking. Okay. These are scale dependent, right?
Yeah.
So the problem for males is we have to talk about what threats, real or implied. Because that's the issue over here, right?
Yeah, but it's like, it's not just threats, it's opportunities, right? So you're neutralizing and you're taking something away. The threat is contrary systems. So you're by enacting this systematic lying, you are neutralizing opposing social systems that you are unable to take advantage of. You're neutralizing those social systems which don't allow you to take advantage of other people. There's my end point, sir.
Okay.
I'll be right out.
Okay.
All right, Kurt.
Love you, brother. Thank you for today. It was really productive. I'm going to keep working a bit if that's okay with you.
Yes, sir. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, notifications, and leave notifications. All right, Kurt. Take care.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to continue for just a second here because I have a question in my own head. This was supposed to be here. Table, insert, row, paste table row 4. Something didn't work out right. That was wrong. That was wrong. Well, that's what I'm looking for is table. And I'm looking for table row insert 4. And then I've mixed this up. I'm not putting it there. Table row insert 4. And that goes there. And I think this is scaling. Okay. And then we've got that. And I think that's evading. I can fill out evading. And then we can handle the scale there. And then there's more. Table insert row before. And there's more scale. Okay. That's all I want to do online for Brad. Again, thank you for those of us who are, for those of you who care enough to follow this. Thank you for doing so. I know this is only useful for those who are real devotees, but it demonstrate how the process works, which is simple, continuous recursive disambiguation, placing to create a series, put the series in competition with itself in order to disambiguate the series, and then put the series in competition with other series in order to expose differences between the series, and then to fill in holes, etc. It's pretty simple method when we get down to it, but it's really just what economics taught us, which is there's always a competition between dimensions, and the human tendency is not to think like economics or physics for that matter. Although in physics, we often fool ourselves, because if I light a match here, the heat dissipates. If I boil some water, the steam dissipates. So we're not forced to do a full accounting unless we're talking about the very large scale. And at our scales of human cooperation, we call this economics. At the scales of the planet, we call it ecology, or the ecology of the planet. And at the scales of the universe, we call it the fundamental principles. So you'll notice when we're doing mathematics of fundamental physics, we're always fully accounting, because we have to say, well, everything goes somewhere. There has to be somewhere for it to go, because the universe, when we're talking at that level, always has to get rid of whatever energy state we've changed. So the same thing is what we're doing, is we're just reducing it to the same process of saying, where does under a full accounting, where does everything go? Anyway, thanks for following. Really appreciate all the followers. Please leave comments if you have them, and I hope you have a great day.